You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. You're listening to the Camino de Santiago edition of the Mighty Blue and the Appalachian Trail podcast. And I'm your host, Steve Adams, currently walking the Camino. And by the way, they don't have trail names here, so I'm definitely Steve, I'm not Mighty Blue. I'm still going strongly, and I'm experiencing this Camino in a way that I never experienced it first time, and it's been a revelation to me. Today we're going to cover days number 13 to 15, and we'll be catching up with Beth and Andrew as well after they've left trail days and are now in Atkins, Virginia. I'm afraid you're going to have to excuse some hesitation in my voice because I've got some sort of throat bug and I've had to pause some of the recordings partway through to basically cough my guts up. And so it may seem a little disconnected. I'm not sure. Hopefully this is going to pass by the next show. But let's get to it and hear what happened on days number 13 and number 14. Day 13, Atapuerca 163.5 to Burgos, mile 176.0, just a 12.5 mile day. The following morning, there was coffee available in the small kitchen upstairs, so I had a drop of that. There was no food, though several people kindly offered me some, all of which I declined. There are so many fewer opportunities for food in this Camino than I recall from last time, so I thanked people and headed out at about 7:45. Happily, just 100 yards later, I found a shop which supplied coffee and cake, so I bought a muffin and a coffee. I ran into Christopher, the 87-year-old still hiking. Amazing. His old iPhone was no longer charging, so his family couldn't track him. He didn't seem overly concerned, but I was. His family is tracking an 87-year-old guy. He suddenly goes radio silent. This was serious, whether he realised it or not. I asked if he was on Facebook, but he wasn't. Then I said I could try to contact one of his friends or family if he knew their name on Facebook. I checked for, a name I'm not going to mention, his daughter-in-law, I believe. There seemed to be hundreds of this particular name in England. I couldn't believe it. I was searching for about 20 minutes and I couldn't find the right one. Christopher didn't have any numbers to call other than the ones on the phone that was no longer working. In the end, he resolved to get a new phone in Burgos, and I headed out. It was another beautiful sunny day with the temperature in the mid-50s at this early hour. There was an immediate climb out of the village, about 300 or 400 feet, which certainly got the sweat glands open by the time I got to the top. At the top, it seemed as if pilgrims have been trying to replicate the Cruz de Ferro, where one throws a stone from home on top of a huge pile of stones thrown by others. This one was new, but many people are stopping and putting stones there to start a new tradition. I got a stone for Dana and I from our garden, and Emma, my niece, who I walked with last time, gave me a pebble from the garden in her new home. I decided to put Emma's stone on this one and got somebody to video me as I threw it onto the pile. It felt good for Emma's stone to be part of the Camino forever. This was to be our highest point of the day, with the rest of the day taking us gently down, then flat into Burgos. I was ready for a coffee, and maybe an odd egg, but struck out in Villalville, where they even detoured us around the outside of the village. Bloody cheek. Just a mile later, the teasing stopped at Cardenuela Rio Pico. There was a sunny garden with tables and chairs and plenty of pilgrims taking the chance to get a late breakfast. I had an egg and bacon sandwich, and though I often question the food preparation of some of these meals, I wolfed it down along with some fresh orange juice. This set me up for a few more villages on the way into Burgos. Then I turned a corner and remembered. We had to go around the airport. I remembered from last time that this was going to be bloody endless. My memory was pretty much intact as well. It did seem endless to trek around the airport, with the alluring sight of a fence and the airport to the right, and some industrial hellhole belching out noxious fumes to the left. We ain't in Kansas anymore, Toto. But then, I believe I may have got lost. The signage wasn't as clear as before, so I decided to follow my far-out app. Not too sure if that was a wise choice. Occasionally I spotted the odd Camino sign, but I was routed through an industrial area, an urban sprawl of old apartments and the occasional new buildings, before eventually finding my way back to the path. I kind of enjoyed my make-it-up-as-you-go adventure. Burgos is a big city, and a considerable amount of it was trekking through throngs of people as they visited the city. I was quite early. I needed to be there by 2 p.m. to check in, and I sat in a bar about 100 yards away from my Airbnb and had a beer. I checked into a beautiful little place with a full kitchen, a really nice updated bathroom, a sitting room with a flat screen TV and a comfortable bedroom, all for $75. Bargain. And for me, far better than going to the sort of sterile hotels you get these days. That evening, oh, by the way, I've been referred to Bob and Jackie, the South Carolinians, who I've met up with regularly. Well, it turns out that Bob is Barry. I mean, that's what I've been calling him to his face, but for some reason when I record, it's always Bob. Sorry about that, Barry, or Bob. Anyway, I met up with Barry and Jackie and Alison and Ruth for dinner. Alison was finishing at Burgos and heading back to Scotland. She had so much fun about it, and her perky demeanour was always welcome whenever we crossed paths. She had a smile for everybody and laughed at the drop of a hat. I'm going to miss her, I tell you. We were also joined by Daniel Clark, one of the previous guests on my podcast, hiking with his wife, Catherine. They're moving pretty fast, so I probably won't see them again. They joined us for dinner. We had a really good night. That was the end of day number 13. Day 14, Burgos 176 to Hornilos 189.2, a 13.2 mile day. I set my alarm for the morning for 5:30 a.m. in order to get up and finish the podcast that came out last Monday. It has been a particularly logistical nightmare the day before, but I knew I could get it done as 3 a.m. on Monday, which is the normal release in the United States, equates to 9 a.m. in Spain. I grabbed a coffee, finished recording, put it all together, uploaded it, and it was ready in time. You're welcome. I left about 8:30 a.m. and followed the path out of Burgos with plenty of magnificent buildings along the way, though it was dominated by the spectacular cathedral. I kind of worry about being blasé about the many super old structures I'm seeing, especially in the bigger cities. I'm constantly aware of the need to stay in the moment and fully experience what I'm seeing, moment by moment, though we're often subjected to such a barrage of awesome stuff. It's sometimes tricky to be aware of everything around me. I quickly found a coffee shop. I asked for coffee and an egg and bacon roll. I ended up with an egg and chicken roll, but it hit the spot nonetheless. You leave the old city by the Arco, or the Arch, de Saint-Martin. It's always thrilling to enter and exit these ancient places where people have been coming and going for about 500 years and more. The sense of history here is palpable, and to continue that theme, I soon crossed the river on another gorgeous, really old bridge. And then there were fields. There were still several houses and apartments to our left, but the field started to open up to our right, and I breathed a deep, contented sigh. I was back in the countryside. You know, I've rarely felt as eager to leave towns as I have in this particular hike. Not entirely sure why, but I think it's because I'm genuinely taking my time by myself to breathe and take it all in. The Meseta, which I'm actually into now, gives us less distractions, which isn't to say that it's boring, it's far from that, but it is the perfect landscape to spend your time inside your head, and I'm absolutely loving it. Leaving the city behind, the clouds darkened, and I already knew that the forecast was for rain later on this morning, then brightening up later. It looked like there was a bit more than a little shower in those clouds, I've got to tell you. But it held off, despite the dark clouds, and I fell into pace with Vanessa from New Zealand. We chatted animatedly for the next few miles until we reached Tardejos. At the coffee shop, we split up as I sat and had a coffee and a Danish before setting off once more alongside a rural road. And I mentioned earlier that, maybe it was yesterday, that, there seem to be less places to eat and drink, although I know I keep mentioning I have eat and drink, but frankly, whenever you got the chance, you should really take it over here because you never know when the next one will come along. And at the next village, just a mile further on, there was the most perfect place for me to stop in normal circumstances. There were pictures of lovely looking breakfasts, beer, coffee, and I chose to move on because I was on a mission. I hadn't booked anywhere to sleep that night, and I was told that Hornilos was pretty much sold out. However, I saw that the municipal albergue accepted 50% of their beds as walk-ins, so I kept hurrying on, not pushing the pace any more than normal, but just going past people who were slowly going about the day. I was hopeful that I'd be there by about 1:30 p.m. at the latest, and I'd be able to secure a bed in an albergue. And then, just like that, we were in the Meseta. It comes upon you suddenly, somewhat surprisingly, but with the wheat fields around us, for the first couple of miles we were heading uphill, reaching the plateau about 3,000 feet. The path was wide enough for 2 cars to pass easily, and the walking conditions were excellent. And for the first time, I started to treat this a little bit like a competition. I mean, I know I shouldn't, but I really wanted one of the walk-in beds at the albergue. So I pushed harder and harder. Every time I passed by somebody, it felt like another victory. People would stop to adjust their packs, take a photo or have a drink of water or something. I would breeze right past them. I didn't stop once. And my best stroke of luck at the point at which the path dips down towards our goal for the day, Hornilos. There were about a dozen people admiring the view down into the valley. I took full advantage and blew past them all. Still pushing, I increased my pace and arrived it was after just over 4 hours for 13.5 miles. Went straight to the albergue and asked the woman in charge if there were any beds left. She said yes. I was absolutely, irrationally elated. A few minutes later, some of the group who had been admiring the view just 20 minutes earlier came in, and only 5 of them got beds. Now, it's not that I didn't want everybody to get a bed. Of course I did. Just that I really wanted one myself. Perhaps I need a bit of an attitude adjustment. I went out for lunch with a guy called Chris, who has actually been using a CPAP machine while he's out here. As I've told you, I've been using this, what's it called? A mouth guard, which I put in my mouth, and basically it stops me snoring, but it also tends to stop me sleeping. But, I'm not waking too many people up. But he's actually using a CPAP machine, and I'm probably going to get one and actually want to get back to the UK. He's from Tennessee, and we chatted in the restaurant over a decent meal. I went back to the room and slept in a carb coma for about 2 hours. I popped down to the bar again for another drink, seeing a few old faces, and dinner was served at 7 p.m. I didn't have a good night's sleep, of course, because I wore my mouth guard, didn't snore, I didn't sleep either. That was the end of day number 14. Leaving Burgos puts you quickly into the Meseta, and I've heard that people either bus right through this area or bike it, or just start it with a negative attitude and see what it's like. I can't tell you how much I enjoy this part of the trail. It isn't boring, it's just as beautiful as everywhere else on the trail. The views are wider, deeper, flatter to be true, but inspiring nonetheless. If you ever do this hike, please, please, please do the Meseta. You can thank me later. As you know, I had a bit of a logistical nightmare for the last show, and I couldn't get a hold of Beth. To be fair, it was a bit of a communications cock-up on both our parts, but we were able to get together this week, and she and Andrew shared their trail days experience. Let's hear from them now. Here they are. Hey Beth, hey Andrew, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, real good, thanks.
What's now? Where actually are you? Because last time we spoke, you were, I think you were slack packing quite a bit. So where are you now?
So we're in Atkins, Virginia
Okay,
right now.
right.
And so we're at like mile 546 or something like that.
Wow, 500 is a bit of a mark, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
and that was in the middle of Grayson Highlands. But let's get back to that in a minute. Say when we last spoke, the two of you got into a bit of a slack packing groove, which is excellent, by the way. So you did 21 miles to Damascus. Was that good? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, we actually did back-to-back 21 miles.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God!
we slack packed 2 days in a row and 21 miles each so we could get to Damascus and then kind of go like shuttle forward and then walk back to Damascus for trail days.
All right. Okay. So how did Damascus look after? Did they get much damage in Damascus in the hurricane?
We didn't see that much damage. I don't know how much damage there was. We stayed at Lady Di's the first, when we went through the first time, which was on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
and it didn't look like her area got damaged. I didn't really notice anything as far as like places shut down. I'm sure there were, but maybe on Main Street, I think there were a few places now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think when I spoke with her before, she said that they had some flooding, which of course is which a lot of people had as well. And you've had some rain, haven't you? Everything's different. Everything is really different in the rain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice when it's just spitting because then it's nice and cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise we've stayed pretty, dry most nights, especially lately. It's been pretty good.
And I know that Trail Days was always going to be your target as well, but you hiked on for another day after you got there first time. What was that like? And where'd you get to? In fact, was that a 21 day as well?
So we did a shuttle to Massey Gap and then walked back to Damascus.
Oh,
And so we had like 3 days of, walking back because I think it was 30 some miles. And that was great. Because we started in the Grayson Highlands and saw the ponies and stuff and then walked back. And I had forgotten in Damascus at Lady Di's, I forgot my poles,
oh,
which I thought, well, that's okay. I'll just go without poles. So the first day I was without poles in the Grayson Highlands, and it was so rocky.
it is, isn't it?
Horrible.
It's
And Andrew
I'd
kept
forgotten
saying,
how
I'll
bad
give
it could be. Sorry, you say.
what?
I say I'd forgotten how bad it was, how rocky it
Oh,
was.
man, that first day was really rocky. And then we got to like a guy that was doing trail magic, and then he lent me his poles because I was going to go put up my tent, and I thought, oh crap, I don't have poles for this tent. So he gave me his poles, and then I ended up giving them back to him in Damascus because he went there. So that was
No.
good.
And this is a guy called Gun Runner, I believe. He was
Yep.
making food, and he was still there the next morning. That's the sort of trail magic you need, isn't it?
Yeah, he had a little camper van, and he made us eggs and bacon in the morning.
And apparently taped up Andrew's feet. What's going on, Andrew?
Nothing. It was just it was wet socks. You know how there's like little bits of leaves and debris that get in your socks, and
Oh yeah.
it's all wet, so they just kind of rubbed on my side of my foot all day long, and then it just got irritated. And Gun Runner, he was orthopedic guy in the army, so he was like, hey, he was all excited. He's like, yeah, all right, this is where this is my time to shine.
Right.
So it's like, okay, fine, go ahead and do it.
Have you guys had blisters yet? Either of you?
I have a few ones, but I've taken care of them early enough where they didn't get um any worse. But I was just showing Beth these calluses I have on the bottom of my feet. They're like hard as rocks. They're so funny.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine now. You'll be good all the way to the end now, won't you?
Yeah.
So you went back to Trail Days. Did you go into Tent City?
Yeah, we stayed in Tent City. Both of us stayed in Tent City on Thursday night.
Right.
And that was fine. It was great and like great place to camp and stuff. And kind of there was that church group that does all the meals and everything, and they were great. I mean, we had a great meal on Thursday night from them. And then on Friday, Jen came, and so Jen and I moved into a hotel in Abingdon, and
All
Andrew
right.
stayed at Tent City.
So one night at Tent City was enough, was it?
Yeah, it was enough.
Did they have a fire? Because they normally have a big fire and they will dance around.
That was on Friday night
Right.
when Beth wasn't there. I was there. I went there.
Right,
That
you
was a
can
good
confess
time.
now. Then, were you dancing and sort of throwing your clothes off and stuff like that?
No, I only had just a couple of beers, so I wasn't there yet.
You needed a few more than that, yeah. So, tell people what it's like there. What the because I turned up as I didn't go when I was hiking, but I did go when I was sort of trying to sell books and so on as part of the exhibitors thing, and I definitely had hiker envy because everybody looked great and dirty and really kind of enjoying themselves. What did you think as actually one of those hikers there being there? Did it feel good?
I've always, I've been to things like this before, and I've always felt like it's a very tribal thing where all these people are dancing around fires and there's drums going on. And it's like kind of like you're being bonded to your tribe. It's a very primal thing. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely. And you met. I've just noticed you got another tattoo, Andrew. What's this one?
Well, this is a white blaze on a tree. It's just the next hexagon up above
Right.
the hiker guy from the last one. Have you seen any of these pictures? Has Beth sent you any of these pictures?
She sent me one picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Hiker,
I'll
yeah.
send you another one of the. It's pretty good, and then I'm gonna look. So every 200 miles, I'll get a new one. So I need ideas for the next one
So
if
still not.
anyone wants to
Well,
help.
the next one will be hanging your legs over Maccabee Knob, won't it?
Oh, maybe that'd be a good idea.
That'd be a really good
Yeah.
one.
And Beth, you haven't been tempted yet, I presume.
Pardon me?
You haven't been tempted yet to get a
Oh,
get a
no, God,
tattoo yet.
no. We did say that if we finish this, when we finish this, then I will get one of the HE symbol.
Excellent. Well done, you.
That's how wild I get.
And you met my friend Tina, bead by bead from the Quarterway Inn. How's she doing?
She is great. She's just so nice, and it was so fun to meet her, and it was so funny because I went up to her booth and I was going to ask her about the clasp because I had like kind of got something stuck in it anyway and was going to have her just fix it. And then we started talking, and then she said something. Oh, I said something about her Camino ones and that she had made one for you. And then she said, "Oh, yeah." And then she said, "Well, what's your name?" And so I said, "Stepmeister." And she said, "Gosh, that sounds familiar." And I said, "Well, we're on that podcast with Mighty Blue." And then she's laughing. And then she said, "But I think I've heard something else or seen something." Well, when on our YouTube, we often do the beads, the move the beads over. And so somebody had sent her that and say, "These people keep talking about your bead."
Nice.
Yeah.
Represent.
So it was really cool. It was really cool. And then she helped us move 2 beads because we slack packed back. We had 2 beads to move. And so we did a little video, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah, she's a great girl. You're going to stay with her at Quarterway Inn because you'll be there soon, won't you?
Yeah, we're only 9 miles from there, and so I think we're gonna probably go on.
Oh, big
We thought about
mistake.
doing it.
Big
We thought about,
mistake.
I know. We thought about doing it yesterday, but it would have been like we did 19 miles the day before, and then it would have been 22 miles almost today. I mean, yesterday, and that just it was a long way. So we didn't do that. We stayed at this Relax Inn, which I would not suggest to anybody in Atkins, actually.
I remember relaxing. It's not great, is it? It's not terribly relaxing, in fact.
No.
And in fact, Andrew, I understand that 2 nights at Tent City was enough for you. Is that right? You went to stay in the hotel on the third night.
No, I would have stayed the next night too, but I thought it was a smarter idea to sleep in an actual bed in a hotel and before getting back on the trail. So I was letting my old brain take over on that one instead of my younger self wanting to stay.
And you're both into new shoes. So you've done 500 miles, just over 500 miles on one pair of shoes. Was that good? I mean, how bad were they?
Yeah, I mean, like mine were, they looked good, but I knew that it's just wiser to get new cushion and
Yes.
everything.
Yes. And you went to the partnership shelter, of course, and got a pizza. Shocker, eh? And you said nice shelter with shower. I seem to remember that shelter. The shower, of course, is freezing cold water, isn't it?
I didn't take a shower there, but other people said it was warm.
Oh,
I
no.
don't know.
Okay. So you're out. You're in Atkins. I'd strongly advise you still Santina's. You'll love the breakfast tomorrow. It's just a nice, relaxing day. There, you really can have a relaxing. I tell you.
Yeah.
And even we both slept in our sleeping bags and didn't get under the covers of the bed.
I'm not in the least bit surprised. I've been in there myself. All right, guys. Well, look, lovely to hear you well. I did hear something on Facebook the other day that there was a storm hit the tent city. Is that right or not?
Oh yeah, on Friday night there was a storm. It hit about 3 a.m., but it didn't last very long. But I heard other people that were up at Massey Gap. Then it hit there for like 3 hours,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
said that it was pretty intense there. But
Yeah.
going through Tent City, it was just the outskirts of the storm. It
Yeah.
only lasted for like a half hour.
Well, look, you're a quarter of the way through. It's a long way, isn't it? This bloody 2,000 mile hike. It's still quite a ways to go. And no other pains and aches and pains going on.
No, I think we're pretty good.
Yep, just normal wear and tear.
Okay. Well, look, keep at it. Good talk to you, and we'll catch up again sometime next week. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Cheers then.
talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
They have certainly got the slack packing bug, haven't they? Who can blame them? I know that there are these purists out there who say you should carry every bit of your pack all the time, but frankly, you don't need to, because you carry as much as you need for that particular day. And if you're going back to a hostel that you stayed at the night before, then all you need is what you take. The so-called purists need to remember that hike your own hike isn't actually a cliche. It's exactly what you should be doing out there every single day you're hiking. And you manage your hike the way you want to manage it. Both Beth and Andrew are doing their thing the way they want to do it. I could not applaud them more. Now, the last section this week from my Camino hike, and this is day number 15. Day number 15, Hornilos 199.2 to Castro Jerez 200.7, 11.5 miles day, and we're past the 200-mile marker. The previous night, I'd booked an albergue for the end of this day and a hotel for the next day for my podcast. I thought it would work out pretty well because the hotel is slightly shorter than the distance I would like to go to, but it would allow me to get to the hotel at around 1 p.m. to be able to get the show done, including an interview with Beth. If you're listening now, it clearly worked. There was a somewhat rude awakening at 5 a.m. when a few Germans in the room decided this was the time we were all going to get up. And they tried to get ready, trying hard not to wake us, but in a room of about 10 people, it's going to be quite a difficult feat. And flashing their torches on their phones around didn't really help either. But I believe I actually dropped off again and was eventually one of the last to leave, of course, at around 8 o'clock. There was only a small coffee available at the albergue, and there wasn't an open cafe in the village. So as soon as I left the town, I knew I had about 5 miles to go to get to Hontanas, which was one of my favourite places from my last trip. The forecast was set fair for about the next 10 days. The weather's going to be fabulous, and it's not going to be too hot. I think 70 is the maximum temperature we're going to get in those 10 days. And I set out in mid-40s temperatures, perfect. Beautiful sunshine, expansive views, with Costa Jerez the target for the day. A 2-mile, 400-foot climb brushed away any cobwebs on this morning, and when I reached the plateau, the full expanse of what we were walking through revealed itself. Basically, it's cornfields, which are still very low, which is kind of good, I think, and lots of wind turbines in the distance. I knew I was going to enjoy this. I just hoped others would get a lot out of it as well. The gentle flat walk was interrupted by a sudden dip as the path curved down to the left before curving back up to the right, giving us another brisk climb, though it was nothing I hadn't done before. Then, just 2.5 miles from Hontanas, the road turned inexplicably into a virtual quagmire. They must have had an incredibly strong, localised downpour, which literally reshaped the path, with several tractor marks having cut it up a bit more. The muck started clinging to my boots in clumps, and it seemed to add pounds to my feet. Really, I don't need any more pounds on my feet. It slowed me down really badly. Just as quickly as it started, though, it cleared up again. I truly have no rational explanation for it, but I was truly glad that it was over. Before Hontanas, there was a new cafe about 100 yards off the path, right in the middle of the countryside. It was a beautiful little setup, and they served excellent breakfast food, which I naturally took advantage of. I sat down with a woman whose name I'm not going to mention because she said she was sending a picture to her daughter. I asked how many children she had, and she says, I'm the mother of 2 girls. And the way in which she said it made me realise that that wasn't the entire story. I waited, and she looked as if she was making a decision, kind of nodded to herself, and told me that her daughter had contracted a tumour at the age of 14 and had died at 17, 5 or 6 years ago. Of course, she then asked about my children, and, well, we pretty much unloaded on each other our respective grief. Once again, these conversations, which one would rarely have in everyday life, are more intense, more valuable, and more intimate than one would imagine. But I find them extremely valuable. When I mentioned Rob's death, she leaned forward and touched my hand. It was an intimate, empathetic gesture that touched me deeply, almost bringing me to tears. But funny enough, thinking back to it right now, it's choking me up a little bit now as well. I was excited to come back to Hontanas after 7 years, and the place was pretty much how I imagined it. Sadly, the beautiful church was closed, and as I'd already stopped for food and some coffee, I didn't really need another coffee, so I just went through it. I suppose you don't necessarily need to stop at the same place as you did last time, but Hontanas was always a favourite of mine, and it's still a beautiful place. The path out of Hontanas took us away from the road and gave us a long, narrow path with banking to the right with wildflowers, then wheat beyond and a shorter, small bank to the left and something else they were growing. These wildflowers are spectacular. They seem to have rewilded certain parts of the fields with kind of a swathe of pink flowers, white flowers, yellow flowers, and these super dark crimson poppies. They're just all over the place. It looks absolutely spectacular. Rewilding fields is a wonderful thing to do, and I saw loads of them on this day. I can't tell you what it was, but for the first time, I was flagging. And I think the conversation I'd had with the woman had put me in a bit of a funk, possibly just reminding me of my grief, but whatever, it was a struggle right then. I had another 2 or 3 miles to go, so I suspected I'd get there within half an hour, or an hour and a quarter, but I was looking for the day to be over. And almost as soon as I recorded that, I got a second wind. I've no idea how. I was thinking about it, I wrote it, I actually spoke it into my journal, and as soon as that was over and out of my head, I felt better again, and I started walking in. I soon came to the ruins of the monastery of St. Anton and sat with other hikers just looking at the magnificent old, now being destroyed structure. Straight after that, passing through the archway of the abbey, I turned the corner and there was Castro Jerez. I've been expecting it, but for those of you who have or even haven't seen it, it is a stunning view to see this huge mound dominating its surroundings with castle ruins at the top. I'm pretty sure that the gravel path to the right of the road wasn't there when I came last time, because I'm sure I have pictures of Emma walking on the road. The walk is certainly safer and better for having that little path now. I reached Castro Jerez and my albergue was one of the first things I saw. It was super clean. There were a few old faces to catch up with as we shared a communal dinner before I headed off to bed. And that was the end of day number 15. So that's it again for another episode. Our 2 Mighty Blue Class of 2025 members are going strong, feeling good and getting it done. Well, I'm still out here in the sun, putting miles on my feet every single day, having what I could almost call a spiritual experience. And I never thought I'd say that. I'll see you next Monday.